You're listening to Mitiga Mike, a Cybercrime magazine podcast brought to you by Mitiga, the leader in agentic runtime security for cloud, SaaS, and AI, delivering zero-impact breach prevention. Learn more at mitiga.ai.
Welcome to the Mitiga Mike podcast. I'm your host, Brian Contos, Field CISO with Mitiga. Joining me today is John Vecchi, CMO at Mitiga. Welcome to Mitiga Mike, John.
All right, Brian, great to be here, my friend. Always good to join you here.
Absolutely. And I'm super excited about this one because I don't know if there's anybody that hasn't heard about Anthropic, certainly in the last 6 months. It's just like it dominates all tech, all traditional media. And there's a lot of interesting things coming out of Anthropic, different certification programs and vendor verification programs and things like that. So you recently wrote a blog, which I thought was very exciting. It's about Anthropic's Cyber Verification Program, the CVP. Now, many people probably haven't heard of the Cyber Verification Program. So maybe just start off with, what is this and, why should people care?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, everyone knows Anthropic. We all use it. But, you think of the Cyber Verification Program, it's almost like a background check for defenders, right? I mean, when you think about it, frontier AI models and Claude and all of these are extraordinary, right, at kind of cyber reasoning, right? And that's a double-edged sword, right? Because, the same capability that helps a defender kind of understand gaps and flaws and all kinds of reasoning for defense is the same thing that attackers can weaponize, right? So what happens with that? Well, what happens by default is Anthropic blocks all the dangerous cyber capabilities in their models, right? Because they don't want attackers using them, right?
So, yeah, so much to the fact that even so lately I've been playing with Fable as opposed to Opus 4.8, I think was the last one. And right when it comes up, hey, try this new thing. And by the way, you can't do cyber stuff. So, it's like right there. It's like the top line. It tells you what you can and cannot do. I go, wow, that's pretty hardcore to make that your leading item.
Right. So if you just went today to ChatGPT and a host of these models and just started asking it questions about, whatever it might be, and your intent might be around cybersecurity defense, it'll not answer you because by default they are blocked. So this is the Cyber Verification Program. This kind of allows Anthropic to essentially unblock certain reasoning capabilities for vendors that go through their program. Now, remember, it will block forever the most dangerous stuff, right? So, mass data theft, ransomware attacks, things that are bad will forever be blocked for everybody, right? But what they've unlocked is what we call the dual use. And that the dual use in the sense that a defender can now freely, without being blocked, right, use the model for legitimate kind of use, right? It can look at maybe, better detections, right? Better cyber reasoning for about how exfiltration happens, things like this. And so this is the Cyber Verification Program. And for us at Mitiga, the reason I wanted to write about this is it means that now we as Mitiga can apply, Claude's full reasoning, right, to kind of solve that kind of hard attacker-minded work that allows us to deliver what we call agentic runtime security, runtime defense, right? And we can do that without the model by default refusing us. See what I mean?
Yeah, it's such an important capability for defenders. And I'm so glad that there is a official program for this to make sure that, hey, the folks that are requesting this level of access, right, there's a legitimate use and they're going to be handling that in a specific way. So what a big milestone, I think, actually, just the fact that Mitiga is so early in this program and leveraging that capability. One of the things that you cited in the blog that I thought was really interesting, very interesting blog overall, but it's this stat that I think should terrify everybody. And it's basically the mean time to exploit. And before I say what the number is, it used to be when you saw mean time to exploit, it'd say, this might take a few weeks, a few months, maybe if you're lucky, a few days, this and that. But now the mean time to exploit is actually negative 7 days. 7 days before you saw this thing, it got exploited. So break this down. What actually does this mean in practice, a negative 7 days to exploit?
It's quite extraordinary, isn't it? If you go back to, say, 2018, I think the average time from disclosure to exploitation was around 63 or 64 days. That's 2018. We're now looking at, on average, a mean time of -7. So what does that mean? It just simply means, look, the exploit will land way before the fix even ships. It's what makes the math just pretty frightening, pretty terrifying, right? You used to have so much time. That is not the case now. And, you now look at all of the CVEs we have. And, one of the things I talked about, even in a blog earlier, was just all of the vulnerabilities that, Anthropic found, in this program just in a week or a month. But, about nearly 30% of all the CVEs now hit within the first 24 hours. So it's overwhelming, right? And, now the other thing that's happening, which is kind of interesting, and I talk a little bit about that in my blog as well, is that there's also an issue with kind of the patch, right? And so what's happening now is think about what the models can do. Once the patch and the fix goes public, right? Attackers can now just diff that code. They can just go out and diff the code, and they can find exactly what changed and then weaponize that. So the thing that was issued to kind of protect you is now, something that can be used for the next attack against you. So it's just the math just doesn't work.
Well, the playbook has changed. I mean, look at any sort of guide to building a security program. Patching's probably going to be on page 1. And not to say patching goes away. Of course, people are going to patch. Vendors are going to come out with updates and you're going to patch. You probably do updates on your phone every day, or hopefully, or maybe every week or something like that. But it's not the thing, is it, anymore, that it quite used to be, right? The idea was, Microsoft, for example, and everybody issues patches, but we use Microsoft. Microsoft issues a patch. You take a look at it. You got a couple of days to kind of figure it out, this and that. All right, we're going to schedule this now for this Friday at 10 p.m. We're going to update all these systems and this and that. And it's a little bit of a casual approach, although at the time we always thought it was pretty fast. But now that playbook is completely different, isn't it? I mean, it's not even something to be considered in that kind of time frame.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that the playbook is obsolete. We still have the playbook. The way I think about it is it's architecturally and strategically incomplete for this new era. So the playbook has to change, right? I mean, find and fix, it has to happen. It will continue to happen. And a lot of the vendors that are in the CVP program are working on that issue of how can we patch faster, right? But you kind of can't fix and patch your way to safety fast enough now. With the -7 days mean time to attack, right, to exploit, the math just doesn't work. So this is where, for Mitiga, why is it so important? We come at this a little bit different, right? We're not looking to patch faster. We understand that's going to happen. You have to find and fix, right? It's just insufficient. We come at it with the idea that they will get in. And so what we want to use that model for is to enhance and embetter what we call our compensating control. We are the compensating control, assuming they will get in. They will get a beach hold in. They will come in. We want to be there standing at the window when the attacker walks in. And then we want to, in runtime, to be able to see that, right? Interrupt it and stop that before impact happens. So, and I think that compensating control is the way, partially a big way, that playbook now has to change.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsor.
Every security vendor tells you they'll stop attackers before they get in. But the problem is they're already inside and they don't look like attackers. They look like your users accessing your SaaS apps, your cloud environments, and AI infrastructure. And that's why Mitiga built agentic runtime security across cloud, SaaS, and AI environments. This is a zero impact breach prevention solution. Because when attackers get in, they should get nothing. Let them come. Learn more at mitiga.ai.
And now back to the podcast.
Yeah, I'd really underscore that runtime bit. I mean, virtually every conversation I have with a partner, a prospect, an existing customer, that's what's being highlighted. It's the ability to address this in a runtime perspective. I actually want to get back to something you alluded to slightly before, because the numbers here, all these numbers are staggering, right? It's like, how big is the universe? But Anthropic themselves, in their design and testing, found over 10,000 vulnerabilities in what they call critical software. So you could probably guess the major operating systems, major browsers, major applications, so on and so forth.
Critical infrastructure.
all the stuff that we care about, like, oh, do you use electricity? Do you like water? Do you go to the bank? All these things we care about, right? So the serious ones is about 75 of the 530 that were considered like these are super serious. These are high level, right? CVE, CVSS scores of 10, for example. Only 75 of the 530 that were in that level actually have been patched. Maybe a few more now of this, but the time of the actual blog, that number is scary, man. Because if you think of this as in the hand of a nefarious actor, that makes that window so broad across these critical systems. And again, everything from power and energy to oil and gas to transportation to your critical databases and operating systems and servers. I mean, that number is really pretty atrocious.
It is atrocious. I mean, it's certainly something that keeps a lot of people up at night. But what it certainly does, I think for sure, is completely validate, what the math has already been telling us about this issue, right? And you think about those 75 patches. So you have close to 450 open vulnerabilities sitting in, critical infrastructure and across the world, and it's like you think that that's a backlog problem. Oh my gosh, but to us, it's a runtime visibility problem. Right? You can't, the math doesn't work. You can't, go kind of fix your way out of that, right? You can't just say it's a backlog and we got to go address the backlog. I mean, you're going to do that. But for us, it's a runtime issue, right? Gone are the days where you can put an agent across your cloud, your SaaS, your identity, your AI, your third-party services. You can't. Logs are now the truth, right? And for us, having that telemetry and be able to use that from a runtime perspective to provide that visibility and that kind of compensating control is everything, right? And so everything we do is built upon that kind of attacker-minded AI reasoning that we apply with everything we can do, because find and fix, like I said, it's necessary. It is absolutely not sufficient anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, if ever there was a time where this statement matched, it's right now, and that's what kept us secure stopped working. And it's painfully evident now with these numbers. And hey, these are numbers that are being published by a very well respected, very well known AI company. This doesn't even go into all the other malicious tech that's out there that's being leveraged by other nefarious actors that aren't advertising these things, or there's purpose built backends designed to just do these exploits. So yeah, we're looking at these numbers that are just from Anthropic, but don't think that these are the only numbers that are out there. I mean, this is something that's going to be growing. And also remember this is the worst that this AI is ever going to be. Next week, next month, it's going to be so much better at this than it is right now. I mean, the number of times I update my AI. So you said something that was really cool in the blog. You named the enemy at the end. You called it AI speed adversaries. And I really like that. I hadn't heard that before. And you're so great at kind of contextualizing these concepts into these very easy to understand terms. But what does that actually look like? And how does agentic runtime security butt up against these AI speed adversaries?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've been talking about AI speed attacks, and I think, we used to say, oh, in about a year, we'll start seeing some AI speed attacks. And we were saying that last quarter.
Yeah.
Now, okay, now they're kind of started, they're going to be here. I mean, so I always think of it in terms of AI speed adversary. Basically, what it means is an AI speed adversary, right, can chain a foothold across your SaaS, your identity, your AI, your cloud, your third-party services in minutes. And you think of kind of the typical human kind of speed lateral movement, previously that ran over maybe days, right? Right. So now we're talking about, chaining foothold across all of that in minutes. It's pretty overwhelming. And so that's why I just always think of it as they are adversaries, but they are running at AI speed. So agentic runtime security is really saying, well, we need to run at machine speed. It's not that humans are out of the loop. They will be in the loop, but everything's going to change now. And I think we, on an earlier podcast with you, we talked a little bit about the fact that the whole mindset has to change now about autonomous kind of security in the SOC. And so, agentic runtime security runs at machine speed with the attacker minding reasoning built in, right? And it's that same dual use analysis that the kind of cyber verification program unlocks, right? Like we say, like, EDR will protect your endpoints. Agentic runtime security will protect everything else. A, the math isn't going to work. B, you can't throw agents across all this stuff. You need to think about it differently. You need to be in runtime. You need to be at machine speed. You need to be able to see, interrupt, detect, block, and stop all this stuff. And again, like I said, there's no device to image across these things, right? It's not like the old days. The logs are the ground truth, and we understand that. And that's what we leverage with our kind of data layer to provide all of that, agentic runtime defense, right?
Yeah. And honestly, kudos to Anthropic for putting together this cyber verification program and bringing Mitiga into it and having the foresight that, hey, this is a game-changing approach to tech and certainly security. And we have to have organizations like Mitiga that are going to help organizations adapt. Because even if you just take something like SaaS and the fact that, yeah, there's some SaaS applications that you use and maybe you do, or maybe you don't get logs from them. Maybe you do, or maybe you aren't looking at that in real time. But then it goes on to, well, I'm also working with this partner and they have this SaaS application that works with another partner, has this. So now you have second, third, fourth, fifth, ... party risk. There's no EDR that's going on that. Not that EDR goes away for what EDR does. That's certainly a point. But having this sort of agentic runtime that can look across your entire environment, man, that's smack dab where this has to be. It's just so obvious. So if I'm a CISO, a security leader, and I'm hearing this, what's one, mindset shift that really separates organizations that are going to, survive this? Because I think at this point, we're really talking about survivability. And it's either an adapt or fail kind of position now. It's not even a question mark if something nefarious is going to happen, because the speed has been ratcheted up to 11 now, right? And there's just no way to leverage the old paradigm. So what's that takeaway for survivability that I should leverage as a CISO?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just, in simple words, it is just assume and accept that the attacker will get in. I mean, look, and we've said it and I say it every day, prevent till the cows come home. Do that, right? Apply your prevention. You need that layer. You absolutely need it. All your posture, all that risk stuff. Definitely do that. But now to kind of survive this, you must accept that the attacker gets in. And you don't think of that like a failure that, oh my God, I need to sit and try to explain how and why an attacker got in. It's now kind of like an engineering and strategic assumption that you now build around, right? And I think, we need to stop measuring success kind of by perimeter integrity now and measuring it by blast radius. Did the foothold that they chained together reach anything that matters? Was there impact, right? And so if you just now accept the fact that they're going to get in, among everything else you're doing before, do it. But now you just assume and accept they will get in, and you build your program around that strategic assumption. I say, and the way I say it is, the gap is now your strategy. Does that make sense? The gap is the strategy. And that now is what we call zero impact breach prevention. So if you're going to assume they get in, now let's try to make sure that we can prevent the impact in runtime, right? And so the perimeter is where the fight starts. Runtime is where it ends. That's kind of what I say.
I love it. I love it. So, John, right before I let you go, if people are interested in checking out your blog, where should they go?
It's all over LinkedIn, but just if you head to Mitiga website, just look under resources, go to blogs. We have some incredible blogs. And I know I say it all the time. I'm nothing in the blogs. Our research team, they are unbelievable.
Yeah. Mitiga Labs is amazing.
So just go read those. But if you happen to see mine, you'll see it up there as well. But please go there, take a look at it. And, I'm always having something to say. So more to come where that one is.
Awesome. Well, thank you, my friend. And thanks for being part of Mitiga Mike.
Awesome, Brian. We'll see you next time. Thanks for having me.
Mitiga Mike is a Cybercrime magazine podcast brought to you by Mitiga, the leader in agentic runtime security for cloud, SaaS, and AI, delivering zero impact breach prevention. Learn more at mitiga.ai.